दे रंगों की दुनिया में. Leonardo da Vinci has finely elaborated and connected the art and poetry painting. Painting is a poetry that is seen rather than felt, and poetry is painting that is felt rather than seen. To unwind this connection of art and poetry, we feel pleased to have Dr. Vimmie Manoj with us. I invite Shivangi Malviya for guest introduction and Dr. Rashmi Sahi from Hong Kong to interact with Vimmie Madam.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. I find myself immensely honored and privileged to be able to introduce Dr. Vimmie Manoj, a woman of remarkable versatility and is a self-taught artist who has attained global recognition for her work in the field of arts. She has never had any formal education in art, but yet her passion towards it has what made her pursue the same. She has participated in various group shows, residency programs, art projects, art shows, conducted workshops, lectures, and has held 7 solo shows. She has also represented India in several international platforms. A PhD in English literature, she worked as a professor in colleges for over a decade. During that term, her research articles have been published and she presented papers on various national and international forums. She is the coordinator of Jaipur Art Summit and has curated the Lalit Kala Academy Art Camp held at Maheshwar in August 2019. She also exhibited a show in the same year at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, New Delhi, and was selected for IFEC's annual art exhibition in 2014 and 2018. She has been included in Artist of India, Modern and Contemporary Art 2018 and as World Women Artist in Art Magazine Session, Mixed Women Artist Volume 3rd. She is the recipient of Kaushik Bai Gosalia 2013 Award for Best Work in Mixed Media and is shortlisted for a solo show at the Lalit Kala Academy, New Delhi 2020. She has been working on sustainable and recycled art for over 3 decades. Her paintings in oil and acrylic are a representation of life and human emotions that she so delicately pours out on a canvas. Her use of symbolism, the portrayal of the struggle of womanhood, and the expression of deep feelings through colors make her art stand out. Her deep interest in the fields of literature and research also reflects immensely through her art, and her philosophical approach helps her express her art in the form of visual poetry. For her, art is a mode of expression that helps in seeking unraveled truths, in expressing the unexpressed, the ethereal, and the metaphysical. With this thought, let us now invite our next speaker for today, Dr. Vimmie Manoj, in conversation with Dr. Rashmi Sahi from Hong Kong. Over to you, Rashmi ma'am.
Thank you so much, Shivangi. When you were going on and on and on with the achievements of Dr. Vimmie Manoj, I was thinking, oh my goodness, this is a long story. I mean, we had 2 sessions on storytelling. The first one in the ad world, and the second one by Dr. Shakti Singh. And I was thinking, we are now actually taking this to a next level of the storytelling, and it is through the painting. So welcome, Dr. Manoj. Before I even proceed, I give you the floor. I just want to tell you, thank you for taking the invitation and sharing those beautiful paintings that you have behind you. And somehow when Dr. Shakti Singh was talking about the story, I felt as if you were thinking of your next painting, or you had a character. I'm sure, and I believe that this is how, because you are also into literature and you read, and as Dr. Swaroop, our first speaker, said, reading is important. I just want to open the questions with how and when did you start painting? Over to you, Dr. Manoj.
Thank you. Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you, Deepa, and thank you, Shilp, for giving me this platform to express my thoughts. You asked me a question, since when did I start painting? There is a saying that every child is an artist. It's only when we grow up we stop, becoming an artist. But let me confess over here that I have always remained a child. I refuse to grow up. Whatever my age, my physical age, I always have loved to be a child. And I never wanted my childhood to be over. So I refuse to grow up. So people who know me personally know me like a kiddish lady who's very childlike. Just as they have the child psychology to explore everything, or to draw, to paint, to jump, to climb trees, or break leaves and make some collage with the dried leaves and things like that, the same games, I am happy to say that I still continue to do that. And eventually, from my childhood in Pune to my marriage to a forest officer in Madhya Pradesh, that has been a turning point in my life, because I was placed in a place where I had access to nothing except nature. And I always have my motto of life is bloom wherever you are planted. So I just took it as a privilege that I'm in nature. Maybe it's my destiny to be so close to something which, in a big city like Pune, I was never that close to nature. So maybe it was my destiny to be with the environment. And that is how in 89 I started using those used logs. We used to live in a forest depot where you usually get those logs for burning. I mean, they are sold for that. And I used to pick up those logs and I started making a sculpture on my own. And remember, I'm not a trained artist. Of course, in my childhood I was into dancing and poetry and reading and writing, as like just normally like every other child does. So that was the time I started doing my creative process started. And I think I had left off my studies because I got married very early, at a very early age. I'm a graduate in maths and physics and geology. And when I came to Madhya Pradesh after my first child, I just wanted to continue with my studies. So I did my MA in literature, and then my PhD, and then qualified that SLET and all that stuff. That professional self was there. But I have been lucky to say that I never left my creative self. I was always into drawing and painting and dancing. That has always been my passion, besides reading and writing.
Would you say, please, like your childhood, it was full of, I would say, art, and when you got married and then you got your, like, when you went into literature, did that art and combination of art and literature help you in some way, living in the place where you had nothing else, unwind yourself? Was it helpful in aligning yourself?
Oh yes. Oh yes, it was very helpful to me, because when you don't have access to electricity, so automatically you don't have access to the television or even the telephone in those times. I think they were the distractions, so I was free from all these distractions. And being that ability to think and explore things, it has always given me a new, wanting me to have explore more newer modes of expression. So what I feel like, creative process is like a stream. It finds its way somehow or the other. If you're not painting, you're writing. If you're not writing, you might be stitching something. If you're not doing some sewing work, you are doing cooking, or something or the other, you keep on doing it. And that's how it has been very helpful for me in unwinding. Many times when you're alone, remember I'm using this word alone or loneliness, when you come from a crowd and you're put into a situation, just as like the way we do live these days, right? We are living in isolation. The pandemic has made us live in this field of isolation. Many of people who have never wanted to explore are feeling lonely. But the people who have always loved to, accept a change or want to do something new, for them it is very easier. For them, this is isolation. And how I feel isolation helps you in unwinding. It's a bliss.
Yeah, I think today's session, that is why it is so relevant, because what we were actually thinking when we thought about this was, in these times of pandemic, if we can motivate people who are isolated or lonely to explore art, because art really helps us align. Because I can see the paintings, and you delve in paintings. If Sunny can put up a painting, and if you can walk us through basically how does it all start, or how does it leads to what it becomes, and how it helps you in growing as a person, or literally bringing something out of you, because I'm sure people who are listening to you would want to know the process also, so that they can be on that path. Sunny, can we have a painting?
Yeah. Before we do that, Rashmi, like you were saying, like before I start with art and poetry as a therapy, now let us throw lines, focus on why do we need a therapy? Why would a human being need a therapy at all? I mean, this is something very vague. When we say we need a therapy, someone needs a therapy, people, the first thing that pops up in the question is, are we really sick? Or are we unwell? Is something not normal with us? So this is what usually happens. But mental healthiness or mental illness is also a fact which most of us really don't accept. Now, let us come to let me speak about it, the focal point of it, because the human society usually lives on the concept of happiness. So everything that is perfect and in its place is beautiful. You change anything, and then that creates anxiety, and that creates the fear, that creates this stress and anger. So because you're not ready for these changes. So this is the time when you need the therapy. And what actually is the therapy? Why are we so stressed up? Why are we so fearful? Or why are we so unhappy? Like one of the speaker before me, I think Mr. Ghosh, he said that we prefer the world we left behind. We have started now preferring the world we left behind. How it happens that we have stopped expressing. When we are unable to express our feelings and our emotions, that is the time all the feelings and emotions just keep on mounting up, and that leads to the stress. So we do need some areas or some creative process through which we can really express. Now, when I say something we need to express, like for example, we all know language. When I say language, yesterday Ashok sir has said about cave paintings. Now, from before the languages came into being, I think drawing came before the languages, because the caveman drew a line. He joined both the ends of the line, it became a circle. He joined the three lines, it became a triangle. And then they started, making numerous known figures to us, recognizable figures to us. And eventually, after these lines, what are alphabets? What is a language? Alphabets too are lines. They are just the lines that make a circle, or A or B or K or K. So I think drawing is the basis of everything. Drawing leads to the language, the Shabd. So Shabd, Shilp is Shilp Shabd. Right? So this is how it actually started, and this is how it has always been. But unfortunately, because of you can say the Western, or we are more into the materialistic viewpoints, that we have just focused on something that makes a more of an earning or which will help us give money. So, we are more into that now. We have ceased to live. frankly speaking, we have ceased to live. We have become robots. And we like to think also like robots. We are forced. Everything is spoon fed that this word is this. For happiness, you have to do a this. For sadness, it's this. So all these symbols are set codes. When we do come into a creative field, we actually do not want to be bounded by these boundaries. So we really want to melt these boundaries, and we want to make our own language, because remember, basically we were there to make our own languages, but the society has forced that this is how you should behave, this is how you are supposed to write. Just like Shakti Singh was also saying, the beautiful culture of Rajasthan, कि राजपुतानी को क्या करना चाहिए, क्या करना चाहिए, कैसे करना चाहिए, तो इतने रिचुअलिस्टिकली हमको सब कुछ बता दिया गया है. वो राजपुतानी के अलावा individually also we all have been guided, and just those sets are there. So how we feel that creative, it doesn't earn money. किसी एक गायतोंडे की करोड़ों में बिकी है, पर हर कोई गायतोंडे नहीं हो सकता, तो क्यों करना. तो हम क्या करें, तो जो भेड़ चाल है वो हम फॉलो करते हैं, हम क्रिएटिव प्रोसेस को नहीं फॉलो करते हैं. बट लकीली अभी कॉर्पोरेट में इंटरनेशनली ग्लोबल इसमें जब कॉर्पोरेट कल्चर आ गया, दे रियलाइज दैट द क्यूबिकल फॉर्मेट ऑफ ऑफिसिंग टू कनेक्ट, दे हैव put aside those cabins. Now you have the cubicle when you can see each other, but then still they are realizing that these professionals are still can't express themselves. Now, this is one of the reasons we have access to all the social networking sites, we have access to all the gadgets and everything possible. And in spite of all this, we are unable to connect. Now, this is very important. And because we are unable to connect, we undergo stress. We can't manage our anger. We can't manage our fear. And there is lots and lots of insecurity that we are feeling. So this is how art and poetry usually comes up. And when I say art and poetry, for me over here, art, and because it connects, it's easily done. So I use painting. I account it as painting and poetry, art and poetry, because painting is a free flow and a spontaneous use of colors and forms to express. And over there, again, we have our chakra therapy, which emphasizes a special color for something, or the chromotherapy. It has a scientific connotation as well. And poetry is just an honest expression, honest and individual expression of through words. And words over here might be, or usually we are not supposed to create our own new words. We have to follow those set rules. So when one cannot express through poetry, the colors come to rescue. And one cannot express through colors. When I paint for myself, that is my language. But when I would want you to understand, then I might use the word or the poetry through which I can express it. Okay, this is what I am trying to express, because getting heard is also important than saying something. Understanding over here is very important. So this actually really works wonderfully because it has multi-dimensional effect.
I'm sorry, I will have to interrupt you here, because you're talking about, it seems like as an artist, or I would say a person, you do not like boundaries. So you want to melt the boundaries, like the name of our virtual, this literature festival. Am I correct in saying that your painting might not be following any boundaries, or they might not be following any norms? Do you have your own norms in terms of paintings? Would you?
I think you have just asked me what I had always wanted to speak out, because look how it has been in the painting scenario. Every Indian house has an artist. We have been doing the mandalas, the rangolis, or our, the rituals of worshipping a god, or even cooking, pak kala. Rigved explains each and every kala. Okay, but how it happened when the Westerns came, they gave the concept that a tribal art is no art, and what we are making is art. If the Russians are making landscape or portraits, that is no art. What we are doing, abstract art, it is an art. So then, as in literature also, we have lots and lots of theories in art. And remember, I still did say that religion, whether be it religion or be it all these theories in literature, in arts, all of them have been, I can say coined by men. Right? You have never had any group of women trying to contribute or would have contributed, or maybe they must have, but they were, negated out and they were not allowed to, whatever it is. So usually when I started painting, because I was a self-trained artist, people said, no, you are supposed to do only figurative, and you're not supposed to mix the texture with the figurative. You're not supposed to make the abstract and the figurative. So that was the time that I said, no, this is my language, this is personal. I'm not painting to follow those men. I'm not painting to follow those set of rules. But rather, I prefer to follow the stream of consciousness technique. Because whatever comes in my mind, I'm going to paint. You cannot put me in boundary. I mean, we have had enough of it now.
So you will meld the boundaries, like, the name of our virtual session, you will really meld the boundary. So what part of your process, I would ask you, what part of your process from conceiving, from thinking about the medium, and then actually putting that medium on that art, that thought on paper, which part is actually very, very, I would say medicinal to the soul, if I may use that phrase. Which part of it does help you?
See, the process of whether it's painting or poetry, like we really never pre-plan anything. Even when you write, we don't usually say that we are going to use these set of words and we are going to use this preposition here and this adjective or this verb here. Similarly, with painting, you cannot decide before you start. And especially for me, painting is a meditative process. So before you see a painting on canvas, the painting is developed here. It's not just a skill. A skill can be something when I can just mimic. So art is not a mimesis. It is more than that. It is your own language. So if someone is like drawing a moon, I'm not going to sit and draw the same moon. Like interestingly, a few of my paintings have melted moons. My moons are melting. So
here we come again.
It happens. And then, of course, when you asked about the mediums, I have always used reuse and recycling materials. Apart from that, whatever is available, that is another aspect, because like I said, I have lived in very isolated areas. So whatever has been available to me, like I started with driftwood from the beginning, my art journey began with driftwood sculptures professionally. Recently, in the lockdown, where we had lots and lots of migration process going on in India, and there was lots of pathos, and it really evoked lots of pathos, and it was very saddening. But like I said, that I refuse to grow up. So as a child, I can have nothing pessimistic. So I'm very optimistic about looking at life. I usually have the optimistic approach to look at life. And I just felt that migration, yes, whatever was happening out of stress and anxiety and fear with the labor class. But then deep within, when I sat back and I was just thinking, we all have migrated. We have migrated from our small towns to small villages to bigger towns, or from bigger towns to urban cities, from urban cities to international cities. So we have always been in this process of change. And I think change is something very, very important. And at least it helps you grow more and more, and it changes your perception. So I have made a set of paintings or drawings rather, and because paper was available with me, 20 days lockdown, total lockdown in India, so all shops were closed. So I had access, I had paper with me, and I had a marker pen, which one you write on the CD. That I have used that and made a series of 20 drawings, and I have written a poem also on that. I think Sunny can show that first PPT number 1, where I will just recite and the slideshow will go on. This poem is in Hindi because I'm a bilingual writer as well. चलो प्रवासी, चलो प्रवासी, मन का आंगन सजाना है, पग पग चलकर समय चक्र घुमाना है, डग की धूल से ही श्रृंगार अब रचाना है, चलो प्रवासी, मन का आंगन सजाना है. बीज जो बोए, बगियां जो सींची, नन्ही कोपले सहेजे, फल औरों के लिए अब छोड़ जाना है, चलो प्रवासी, मन का आंगन सजाना है. नव देश, नव शहर, नव द्वार, नव दीप, नव साथी, नव साज, नव गीत अब गुनगुनाना है, चलो प्रवासी, मन का आंगन सजाना है. सूरज की धूरी पर धरती का भी फेरा है, समेट कर सपने सारे, चांद को क्षितिज पार कराना है, चलो प्रवासी, मन का आंगन सजाना है. बदलाव मौसम की मिठास है, ठहराव अब निष्प्राण है, अंबर मुट्ठी में समा, जीवन यात्रा आगे बढ़ाना है, चलो प्रवासी, मन का आंगन सजाना है, मन का आंगन सजाना है.
Oh, wow. I mean, I would have asked, like, which medium would you prefer? But then with this, I don't think there is any preferable medium. It is like you are actually an artist with both. So amazing, amazing drawings and just beautiful poetry. And when you're talking about the journey and pravas and migration, I just want to ask you, when you begin your journey and where you are now, has the art that you have been doing for so long has changed you as a person? Because when you are an artist, you are actually in touch with yourself very, very closely, more than a non-artist, I should say. So is it like, does it take you inside? How does it work? I'm very curious to know.
Oh yes. Actually, creative process is an inward journey, like I've always been saying. And how it has happened that it's like a meditation. So whatever emotions or whatever, doubts or fears or whatever was feelings are there in the subconscious mind, they just keep on pouring out. And how that has helped is that shapes my current, and it has made me more perceptive to my environment, more receptive, and have a better perception of my, like I said, because this was a very negative, and in spite of that, I could just relate and pen down something very positive with this
Very
negative
positive, yeah.
scenario that was undergoing. So how it has happened that painting is, the sense of that sight is always there. And with poetry, I have learned not to internalize my stress. Now, that is very beneficial, because when one, succeeds not to internalize anything, so in life you start getting that equilibrium. I'm not too happy now. Nothing makes me very happy, and nothing makes me very sad. Like, of course, you do have your own personal losses. Like very recently, I would like to share another poem with you all. Like when this lockdown happened and I was missing the greens, because I was confined in indoor in those, four walls with no greenery. We were not allowed for walks also. So I had these reminiscences of the woods that I once moved around. So if Sunny can share the second PPT. May I start, Sunny?
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah. It goes deep woods. The path will lead along the trees lined, like the obedient ready to take my command. The thump of my shoes, voice of my burdened shoulders, the noisy bracelets speak of my struggles. The jingling pendants disclose my spirits. The wind across my loose hair now caress my freedom, and my trudge along the road will conquer more woods.
Very good.
Thank you.
Dr. Manoj, when I'm looking at my screen with this splash of colors, I believe that can be interpreted in two ways. Could it be one way? Could be the chaos in the mind depicted on the paper, and after that there was a calm, or was it the calm, or what was it? I mean, can you help us understand?
Oh yes, you know how it happens, Rashmi, with colors and color therapies. Every color has a very different meaning, you know. And you have the soft colors, and then you have the warm colors, and then you have the white, which encompasses all the colors. So white, yes, and you can see a shining moon over there as well. There is a moon, and my moons have ceased to be round now because they are more angular, I can see. And if you see it closely, you will find a moon on the screen. The calm, yes. There are lots and lots of expressions which you really can't, you know, speak out. Sometimes you fall short of words, and sometimes there is no one to listen to you.
Sure.
Okay. So at that time, that calmness, externally you have to be very calm, but internally there's lots and lots of turmoil going on. And I think this is what has most of us have been facing in this difficult time, when we were being, you know, confined to ourselves, and things that we felt were a reason to be happy for, I mean, they are not there. But then, yes, we have the warmth, we are falling in love with our own self, we are trying to, you know, be more introspective, and that is how has been.
I think the introspection will help us unwind too. Like, you know, that is how I think art, if you would agree with me, art and poetry would help the introspection and then the unwinding.
Exactly.
Maybe we can go to the second slide, because I'm very excited to see the
now when you were saying how I have been dealing with how art has helped me. See, this one painting is, I had a photograph of me and my mother in my childhood. We were photographed like this together. And she was suffering from Parkinson's, and it was not a very good condition. And I was flying down from Delhi to Indore, and I wrote down this poem in the flight. And when I came back, I painted this. So it goes, the weight. Over and above the clouds, floating iced fluffs of chilled white, crumpled mountains bordering the city, farms in gold, green, and gray, blue potholes at random glare, the snake twirl of the canal flow like a beauty with braided hair, bunch of flowers adore the gale, a sudden splash of sunlight zooms, hitting the cloud edges and orange bloom. Your beauty, triggered with saffron color, splashes, haunts me of the hazel eyes, twinkling now on a summer dawn, gold and brown, striking the chord. I gallop home in awe to meet you waiting at the door.
You're an artist with words also, Vimmie. I mean, what do I say? Just that beautiful painting and those beautiful words. I think, like looking at this and listening to your poetry, my very last question would be, what would you advise? Like, you know, there are so many of us are struggling, trust me. Like, this is your mother. This was written as, I think, as a vent to your feeling towards the journey away from your mother. How would you help understand today's like youth and artists and non-artists to, or what advice would you have for them to help them unwind with the art?
Likewise, I'd said earlier also, it is important for us to go back to the Shilp part, to the creative process. Now, see, leading cardiologists all over the world, they have been saying that relaxation is very important. It is very important to, manage your stress and your anger and have full control over your own life. So how it happens is that when you come into a creative process, so you have whatever emotions or feelings are there, they don't have any shape or form. They are just the metaphysical part. And when you start creating something, you try to convert that metaphysical into a much more physical thing. You involve all your sensory organs. So that is how, when it starts a relaxation process, and the chemicals within your body, they just signal to your brain, and the brain, your body, which is running fast like a machine, it just slows down. It slows down the whole body, and then the blood flows to your brain and you are relaxed. Now what happens when one involves into the creative process is, it increases the reflective response, the capability of the individual to relax. So you can relax, just as the way you start switching channels. And how it happens is, I can say that just suppose that your mind is like a jug full of water. What will happen? What happens that it is filled to the brim with all the emotions, positive and negative, good or bad, whatever, however they are. And then you start creative process, you start, pouring out from that jug. So how it helps is, then the emotions and those feelings, whether good or bad, they start reducing. There's more space in the jug. So you can add more emotions and more feelings into your jug, right? The external. Now, when you can put more feelings and emotions into your jug, that is the time you become more receptive to changes. You adapt and you adopt. So that actually helps, and that actually will help you regain the equilibrium in your life. And when I say a creative process, it is that when one starts does a creation, whether it's a singing or dancing or just like the art and poetry therapy, you actually become a creator. So you have a full control of yourself. Getting it? So you have a full control on your thinking. So creative process is actually very, very, very important. Like, something very interesting has been there when I have worked with some people doing others therapy. Sometimes you find someone comes up to you, and everyone knows that person as a very jolly and a happy and a very extrovert sort of a person, very chirpy. But when they undergo this therapy, you realize that I just tell that person, no, you are an introvert. Because many times it happens that people just bury their emotions. They just fear that someone might know them so well. So they don't express. So it is a fact that many times the people who appear to be extrovert are basically very introverts. So this is how, these therapies are really helpful to understand that. And similarly, like when you say that someone is fond of wearing a black color, and then we have these, set rules when we say that black is a color of negation. But there is a positive connotation to black color as well, because black is a color that negates all the other colors. So a confident person will always choose to wear black, or might use more black in the therapies. So this is how the analysis come up. And like I would just request the young people not to run behind the materialistic things, because happiness is nothing external. The costliest handset mobile, or the costliest car, or the costliest house is not going to, or the costliest brands are not going to make you happy. They might make you happy just for the spur of the moment, but eventually at the end of the day, you would want something more. Exactly. So just to end my session, I would want Sunny to play the third PPT where I have written a poem. Yes, this one. This is titled Eternal Peace. Nothing can buy you joys. No glitters, no attachments, no love messages, no passionate flings, no dramatic emotions. Nothing. Nothing but your joys of self, the glitters under the unbound skies, your attachments with the soul, the love messages of your own heart, your flings with the eternal peace, the emotions filled by you in life. Your mind alone can bring you the joys. Thank you.
My goodness. Thank you, Vimmie. This is like, I think this kind of poetry should be kept sight. I mean, people, the teachers like us should be teaching this in the world of social media, where we are so after the filters and the forwarding the already created messages. I think it would be an understatement to say that your session has been so enlightening in too many ways. And I'm sure there are a lot of questions, but I think we are running out of time right now. To the audience, if you have questions, and I'm sure you would have questions for Dr. Manoj, please send it to Shilp and we can forward it to Dr. Manoj. And please, Dr. Manoj, I hope you don't mind in answering those questions.
Definitely. I'm always there for Shilp.
We're honored to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, Vimmie ma'am, and Rashmi ji for this awesome session. Very well said, Rashmi ma'am.